Life on Earth is found on communities made up of different species. To understand life on Earth, it is important to know the different variations, adaptations, and tolerance in plants and animals in these communities. Hi, and welcome back. On today's biology episode, we're going to talk about communities and biomes.
Lesson 3.1 Communities. Objectives. First, identify some common limiting factors. Second, explain how limiting factors and range of tolerance affect distribution of organisms. Third, sequence the stages of ecological succession. Fourth, describe the conditions under which primary and secondary succession take place. Life in a community. Look closely at a square meter of healthy green lawn and you will discover that hidden in the grass there is population. There are also populations of weeds, beetles, and other insects, earthworms, and grubs. There may also be twigs, seeds, and maybe a bird feather along with soil and moisture. How do plants and animals survive where they live? Various combinations of abiotic and biotic factors interact in different places around the world. The result is that conditions in one part of the world are suitable for supporting certain forms of life, but not others. Limiting factors. Factors that affect an organism's ability to survive in its environment, such as the availability of water and food, predators, and temperature, are called limiting factors. A limiting factor is any biotic or abiotic factor that restricts the existing numbers, reproduction, or distribution of an organism. The timberline in Figure 3.1 shows the limiting factors that affect the plant life of an ecosystem. As you can see, these factors that will affect the plants in this ecosystem include the amount of sunlight, the climate, the temperature, the water, nutrients and food, if there is a fire, the soil chemistry, the amount of space, and the other organisms that live in this ecosystem. Factors that limit one population in a community may also have an indirect effect of another population. For example, a lack of water could restrict the growth of grass in a grassland, reducing the number of seeds produced. The population of mice dependent on these seeds may be affected. And what about hogs that feed on mice? Well, their numbers also may be reduced as a result of a decrease in their food supply. Range of tolerance. Corn plants need 2 to 3 months of warm, sunny weather and a regular supply of water to produce a good yield. Corn grown in the shade or during a long dry period may survive, but probably won't produce a marketable crop. The ability of an organism to withstand fluctuations in biotic and abiotic environmental factors is known as tolerance. Figure 3.2 illustrates that a population will survive according to its tolerance for environmental extremes. Succession changes over time. If grass were no longer cut on a lawn, what would it look like in 1 year, 5 years, or in 90 years? From experiences, ecologists can predict the changes that will take place. Number 1. The grass gets taller, which starts to grow. The area resembles a meadow. 2. Later, bushes grow, trees appear, and different animals enter the area to live. 3. The bushes and trees change the environment. Less light reaches the ground and the grass slowly disappears. Fourth, 30 years later, the area is a forest. Ecologists refer to the orderly natural changes and species replacement that take place in the communities of an ecosystem as succession. Succession occurs in stages. At each stage, different species of plants and animals may be present. The conditions at each stage are suitable for some organisms but not for others. As succession progresses, a new organism moves in. Others may die out or move out. Succession often is difficult to observe because it can take decades or even centuries for one community to succeed another. There are two types of succession, primary and secondary. Let's study one by one. Primary succession. The colonization of barren land by communities of organisms is called primary succession. Primary succession takes place on land where there are no living organisms. For example, lava flowing from a volcano destroys everything in its path. When it cools, new but barren land has formed. The first species to take hold in an area like this are called pioneer species. An example of pioneer species is the lichen, which is a combination of small organisms. Pioneer species eventually die. Decaying lichens, along with its bits of sediments and cracks, make up the first stage of soil development. In time, new soil make it possible for small weedy plants, small ferns, fungi, and insects to become established. As these organisms die, more soil builds. Seeds carried by water, wind, or animals move into these expanded patches of soil and begin to grow. Climax communities. A stable, mature community that undergoes little or no change in species is a climax community. A climax community may last for hundreds of years. Stability or equilibrium does not mean that change stops. Change is dynamic as the number of species may rise and fall in an area. As you can see in figure 3.3, we have an illustration of this. Over time, rocks weather and soil forms. Soil is a combination of minerals, decayed organisms, water, and air. From start to climax community, it can take hundreds of times. Secondary succession. What happens when a natural disaster such as a forest fire destroys a community? Then secondary succession begins. Secondary succession is a sequence of changes that takes place after an existing community is severely disrupted in some way. During a secondary succession, as in primary succession, the community of organisms inhabited an area gradually changes. However, this succession only occurs in areas that previously contained life and on land that still contains soil. An example of secondary succession. In 1988, forest fires burned from June to September in Yellowstone National Park. Hundreds of thousands of hectares of trees, shrubs, and grasses were burned. The fire have given biologists an opportunity to study secondary succession in a community. Ecologically, the fire represents change, not total destruction. Annual wildflowers, like the ones presented in figures before, were among the first plants to grow back. Previously, the shade of trees was a limiting factor for wildflower growth. Within 3 years of the fire, perennial wildflower grasses, ferns, and thousands of lodgepole pine seedlings began to replace the annuals. Once the pine seedlings grow above the shade cast by the grasses of perennials, the trees will grow more quickly. Now, let's make a summary of the main points from this lesson. Communities, populations, and individual organisms interact in areas where biotic or abiotic factors fall within their range of tolerance. Abiotic or biotic factors that define whether or not an organism can survive are limiting factors. The sequential development of living communities from bare rock is an example of primary succession. Secondary succession occurs when communities are disrupted, left undisturbed. Both primary succession and secondary succession will eventually result in a climax community, which can last for hundreds of years.
I hope you found this video useful. Thanks for watching and until the next one. Bye!